And we are very grateful, extremely grateful to all of you and to His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, who made this auspicious occasion very possible. Srila Prabhupada is amazing. He's effulgently beautifying all of us in this wonderful, wonderful Sringasan. I wanted to just share a little bit about His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj because he's so very dear to so many devotees all over the world. And most importantly, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj is very dear to Srila Prabhupada. And whomever is dear to Srila Prabhupada, as we know, is dear to their lordships. As most of you know, many of you are his disciples, but there are some that may not know that actually in 1976 he met Srila Prabhupada, and there's quite a beautiful story about how Maharaj met Srila Prabhupada. This is a story that it would be nice for everyone to know this pastime, because I just know the little part. I just remember the little part about him being pushed in the room, and he was nervous to meet Srila Prabhupada, and he was pushed in the room by one of his godbrothers, and he fell at the feet of Srila Prabhupada, and that was it. That was it for him. Srila Prabhupada gave His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj so much mercy, because from that very day, he was instructed by his Guru Maharaj to translate Srila Prabhupada's books in Bengali. We know His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj as being Mr. Mayapur, Sri Mayapur Dham. Not only did he have a voice, but he also had a presence. And that presence we can see all over the world. If any of you have been to Ujjain, where he recently, not a few years ago, I remember the opening, where he offered another very glorious, glorious temple to Srila Prabhupada, for Srila Prabhupada's mercy, for Srila Prabhupada's benediction. His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj and my Guru Maharaj would embrace each other in such a way that we can understand it's only coming from the spiritual world. And Maharaj would offer him his own room, his own bed. I know so many times my Guru Maharaj would just be so grateful, so absolutely grateful. So the residents of Gitanagari, we are eternally grateful. We are eternally grateful to His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj. And we are so grateful to see an example of someone that has followed the instruction of their spiritual master since day one. Since day one. I am so grateful and so secure in knowing as long as His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj is on the planet, we don't have to worry.
Srila Prabhupada had a lot of dream about Gitanagari. Prabhupada wanted to create a model Varnashram here in Gitanagari. Also, with Radha Damodar, I had a very intimate relationship. Those days when Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was Prabhupada's secretary, and two of us were sharing the same room. Prabhupada made me the secretary for Indian affairs, and he asked Tamal Krishna Maharaj that I would be staying in the same room with him. And since then, that happened in Mayapur, and since then, wherever we went, His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj and I stayed in the same room. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj had an altar with pictures. And his worshipable deity there was Sri Sri Radha Damodar. Because Tamal Krishna Maharaj started the Radha Damodar party along with his very, very intimate godbrother, Vishnujan Maharaj. And then Radha Damodar started to travel around USA, going to the universities and colleges, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj used to have programs. And that was such a nice program, such a successful program. They met so many devotees at that time. And there used to be a joke Joke means there used to be a saying that Radha Damodar bus used to have, the altar was there inside the bus, and there was one way, one door to enter, and there was another door to come out. And the saying was that they would preach and bring people. They would have long hair, sometimes long beard as well. And they would enter with one door, and when they would come out of the other door, they would be shaved up and wearing dhoti and kurta and tilak and kanti. Extremely powerful preachers. And then the next day, I was doing the Guru Puja of Prabhupada, and at that time I thought that Prabhupada also needs an altar. So that is how it all started. I desired to have the altar for Radha Damodar and Srila Prabhupada. Isn't Radha Damodar looking gorgeous now? I was offering the Aratik, and to me it seemed that Radha Damodar was smiling. They looked so happy. Nobody was prepared to actually do the job now. So that job.
In late 2004, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness decided to establish a center in Ujjain. In less than 10 months' time, a magnificent temple was built. The objective of ISKCON was not only to construct a temple, but help the growth of the city by developing various progressive projects. One such project was to feed 25,000 school children on a daily basis. In 2006, within 2 months' time, a high-tech kitchen was built. The kitchen boasts of the most modern equipment to serve 30,000 students a day. As required, the grain is pulverized into the pulverized flour is then transferred to the storeroom. The storage room is inspected every day to make sure a high level of cleanliness is maintained. Their shift starts from 4 o'clock in the morning. Dough is made in a highly hygienic way. Dough is transferred into the chapati making machine. Automatic chapati making machine makes 10,000 chapatis per hour. Some of the vegetable preparations and rice is mainly cooked in steam jackets. For taste and tradition, other methods are also used. Once all the preparations are done, it is time to pack the food to be delivered to safety and security. Each container is sealed. For 25,000 children is distributed in 175 schools. Considering the success of this project, the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Shri Sivraj Singh Ji Chauhan, visited the premises.
और हम चाहते हैं कि हम सब इकट्ठा होकर ये समाज की ये सेवा, देश की ये सेवा हम करते हैं। बहुत Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. The personality who opened my blinded eyes, he is my eternal spiritual master. I was very fortunate to come in contact with His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is by His mercy that I realized my condition in this material nature, my suffering condition in this material nature. And I got the information about the spiritual world, the world that exists beyond our sight, the world that exists beyond our sense perception. We cannot see that reality. None of our senses can reach that reality. It is only by the mercy of a self-realized soul who comes from that reality can give us the information about that reality. And Srila Prabhupada was that personality who, by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, came to this world to deliver fallen souls like us. Srila Prabhupada was assigned with a very special responsibility to take this message of the Vedas, especially the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and take this message to the spiritual world, take this message of the spiritual world to the Western world. And it is on this day, 17th September of 1965, Srila Prabhupada arrived in the United States of America. That's why this day, 17th September, is very special for us. And wherever I am, I try to celebrate this day as Prabhupada Memorial Festival. This is a day that we must remember the mercy that we received from His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada came to the Western world, and that's why even we Indians became aware of the importance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. Had Srila Prabhupada remained in India, then I don't know how many of us would have received His mercy, or I would rather say, how many of us would have been open to receive His mercy? How many of us would have realized His greatness and surrendered ourselves to Him? Arriving in the United States of America, Srila Prabhupada awakened the sleeping souls, and they became engaged in His mission to spread the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu throughout the world. The American youth at that time came forward to assist Srila Prabhupada, and they went to different corners of the world carrying the message of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada trained them, inspired them, and facilitated them to go to different corners of the world. And those devotees came to India also. And it is by their mercy that we Indians became aware of the greatness of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings and the glory of his Sankirtan movement. We consider ourselves to be very, very fortunate that somehow or other we became connected to this Krishna consciousness movement. Somehow or other we have found the shelter of Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to deliver the fallen souls of this age. The Supreme Personality of Godhead came as a devotee to teach us that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and devotional service unto His lotus feet is the ultimate goal of life. Very simple teaching. Prabhupada used to say that when the father wants the son to come back to him, it cannot be difficult for the son, for him to go back to his father. Father wants the children to come back to him. So our Supreme Father, Krishna, similarly is waiting for us to go back to him. All we have to do is simply develop this desire. We all are his marginal potency. That means we have the option either to remain in this material nature or go back to the spiritual world. As long as we want to enjoy ourselves, as long as we want to lord over this world around us, we will remain in this material nature. And the result of that is suffering. In this material nature, every living entity is suffering. But due to the illusory potency of the Lord, although they are suffering, but they are not realizing that they are suffering. They're endeavoring to enjoy. But when they come across a self-realized soul, a pure devotee of the Lord, then they become aware how they are suffering in this material nature. And beyond this material nature, there is another reality, the spiritual world. And that world is full of joy. That world is full of bliss. And in order to go back to that world, all we have to do is simply surrender unto Krishna, our Supreme Father, our dearmost friend, our most magnanimous benefactor. So this process is so simple. But only thing is that we have to become aware of our suffering condition. And that can happen only when we come across a self-realized soul like Srila Prabhupada and his messengers, his representatives. And they remind us about our actual situation in this material nature and how we can go out of this material nature, how we can become free from the suffering condition and enter into the spiritual world that is full of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. We are so fortunate that somehow or other we have become connected to Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. Somehow or other we have become exposed to his teachings, and somehow or other we have acquired the good fortune to realize the importance of their teachings and accepting the process. Therefore, this particular day, 17th September, is so special for us, because on this day, Srila Prabhupada arrived in the Western world, Srila Prabhupada arrived in America, and as a result of that, today the whole world is receiving his mercy and found the path that leads to the spiritual world, spiritual sky, Golok Vrindavan. And we have the access, we have the possibility of becoming situated at the lotus feet of Krishna there. Thank you all very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschatta Deshotadine. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Guru Maharaj is also a trustee of the GBC College for Leadership Development, and he also teaches in every residential. This is a one-year course that happens for the future leaders of ISKCON or potential leaders for ISKCON. They're already leaders, but they will become top leaders in ISKCON. So we are training them. And Guru Maharaj takes the time out of his busy schedule to come each semester to Mumbai. This happens in Govardhan Eco Village, a project of Radhanath Maharaj. And then he also offers an online course in Vaishnava etiquette. And you know Maharaj is an emblem of Vaishnava etiquette himself. So we are grateful to Maharaj for his guidance.
Stuck to me and like my jaw literally dropped was when I think we had that one girl from Nepal who asked the question, which can be a very sensitive question, about why we only worship Krishna and or why most deities are Krishna deities and not Lord Ramachandra or Shiva. And I looked around and everyone was like, okay, how is Maharaj going to answer that question? But I was just so amazed with the sincerity and the skill that you answered that question, and the difference between Leela Purushottam and Maryada Purushottam and how we're here to enjoy. It just inspired me to go out and actually start sharing Krishna consciousness with people in a more humble way. And to me, you're an emblem of humility, and I've learned so much. So thank you so much, Maharaj.
Where Maharaj was mentioning the importance of youth, he mentioned one thing. Prabhupada tried reaching out to the aristocrats when he first came here, but they didn't respond, and then he went to the youth. That's how ISKCON boomed, and that actually gave me a little bit of push that it's actually now, I wouldn't say upon us, but I think we should take it upon us to propagate Prabhupada's mission as much as we can. Like, it's really inspired me to do whatever we can as young adults, because we have so much potential and so many resources available to us. So thank you, Maharaj.
And even though we know some of these stories, somehow hearing the stories from Guru Maharaj, the stories really enter deep into the heart, and I feel like I could almost visualize the pastimes and also feeling that some more appreciation for Krishna and more love for Krishna.
What I wanted to say regarding this retreat is that Maharaj has spoken a number of times and given the example of a teacher on the level of PhD being able to give his knowledge expertly to any audience at all. And the example of that visiting Nepali girl was excellent example of that, because I consider Maharaj a PhD of Krishna consciousness.
Whenever somebody asks me that you are disciple of like which Guru Maharaj, and I always tell his name, they say, wow, he is such a wonderful speaker, he is such a wonderful kirtanier, you are so fortunate. So somehow that kind of pride comes, oh wow, I'm disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj.